Brayshaw takes a beauty. That's it. I'm growing a beard this week.
Thank you. Time back on.
Welcome back to Gus and Gawny, episode 2 of the rebrand.
Yes, it is.
Episode 2 of the second rebrand.
Yeah. So
We've rebranded twice.
it's a second rebrand.
It's amazing that we're still here.
Oh, look.
We've had to rebrand twice.
A lot of good feedback about the episode last week, though.
Well, the fact that there's only 4 people in the room this time, and last time we went to air, there was about 15.
Yeah. Too much talk about horses for last week, so they feel like now that we've got that one through, the keeper. I spoke to Hunts about that afterwards, and he said that feels like above the line, and it turns out it didn't actually get through. So,
Okay. Well, we don't need to go on.
people might not even know what I'm talking
We
about.
don't need to go on about what didn't get
We
through.
don't. Just know that it is officially not a one-take podcast,
Yeah.
but we are back. Everyone was excited after last week. The socials were popping. I know I got that feedback, so I've been all over. I haven't actually posted anything, but have been just keeping my eyes out over it all.
Sorry.
So.
The socials are going, but you haven't posted anything.
A lot of people have been messaging in with different bits and bobs that I've obviously written down here and we'll be going through. But haven't posted. Wanted to go 0 dark 30. That's what happens when something big happens. You're just trying to not add fuel onto the flames. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about it. But
Will you post this week, just out of curiosity?
yeah, I'll probably post once today to let the people know it's coming, and then just depends.
Okay.
Depends how I feel. You don't want to force these things.
And another thing that we forgot to mention at the start is how regular our episodes will be.
The observant listener will notice that it's been 2 weeks.
It's been a fortnight.
And
was it by mistake?
No. That's the plan.
We're
So,
fortnightly.
look,
Unfortunately, the salaries didn't match the episodes.
I don't think it's unfortunate, and here's why. The old adage, quality over quantity, rings true in this situation. We've got, an awesome list of guests. Obviously, we went through last week. Hopefully, that made it. The dream list of guests that we can have.
Yep.
Elon was supposed to be week 2. He pulled out.
Yep.
We had Tiger for week 4. He pulled out. So it's almost... we're trying to keep the episode quality high.
Well, today we have someone who only actually played 6 games of AFL football.
Yeah, so we're scraping the bottom of the barrel already.
No, not bottom of the barrel. This is top of the top.
It was a joke.
This is CEO.
We're not allowed to
Reach
joke on this
Foundation.
thing anymore, are we? But yeah,
it is Round for Reach, which is a much better name than what it was previously.
reach around.
Yeah. That name just struggled in the first couple of years of the round. Round for Reach is a much better round.
The round for reach.
We'll get that. We'll actually ask them about the naming of the round at some point.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
They're waiting, so what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the game.
Okay.
And a little bit. Have you got any more ramble?
I've got a lot of stuff to ramble about.
Okay, me too. So we'll do that as well. Brisbane.
Oh, you want to start rambling about them first? Yeah, we lost that game.
I missed the first quarter.
You want to talk about the game we won first? Chronological. We beat the Dogs. That's sort of that.
Yes.
You said hi to Sauce.
We're fortnightly, aren't we?
Yeah.
We beat the Dogs.
Sauce got a serving.
Oscar Baker sort of said hi to Judd McVee after Judd McVee got pinned holding the ball, so I thought I'd say hi to Sauce Baker straight after that.
Yeah. Yep.
We had a good text. He said, yep, you got me 1-0. And yeah, the rest is history.
Did he kick a snag as well?
He did kick a snag. Kicked another snag on the weekend. I think he could be their leading goal kicker. Brisbane, we lost Friday night.
Yeah.
They came out hot.
Didn't they?
Lights went out.
They did. A lot of people were wondering where was Bailey Fritsch Electrical?
Well, there was a quote from him saying, boys, when the fuse box goes and makes that sound, there's no chance we're playing again tonight.
Oh, so
Bailey Fritsch Electrical could be struggling. Have they had a fuse box go out before?
yeah, no, I'm
You
just
would have
wondering.
thought he would know a lot about fuses.
Yeah, feels like
And
that's
when he hears that noise, he thought it was game over.
Electronics 101. I would have thought 40 minutes it took to repair, so that we were out for 38 minutes.
I remember after the Lightning game,
Yes.
the infamous Lightning game, I got interviewed by Xavier Ellis after the game.
Yeah.
And Xavier Ellis on Channel 7 said, do you take any learnings for next time something like this happens? And I laughed at him and said, I don't think anything like this will happen again for us.
Yeah.
It happened again.
That's what
pretty much the exact timings of what it was, but we're just the opposite way on the scoreboard.
We were actually speaking about when we were out on the ground in the dark waiting for things to happen. That was something we spoke about. It's like,
Who is going to be our Jack Darling and just randomly turn it on for 5
Yeah.
minutes? And it was Ben Brown.
Ben Brown, what did he kick 4 straight?
To be fair, he kicked 2 of them before the
Matter, kicked 4.
Lightning.
That doesn't matter.
Jack Darling was, I think, 0 disposals into 10 contested marks.
And they've
post-Lightning.
still lost.
They still lost.
And so did we.
And we
So
still
the moral of
lost.
the story is don't get
Be
into
in,
that position.
be,
win.
be in front when lightning hits.
Yeah,
That's the moral
or
of the
the
story.
fuse box blows up. I heard, so I had to leave early to go do something else. after the game. Had a wedding on in Wagga Wagga. So
I was going to say, we're going to delve into that if you were just going to leave it at something else.
No. So
there was every chance it might have been adversity in the family as well. And
it wasn't adversity getting to Wagga, but it was, anyway, I was walking out and the security guard who was escorting me and Reece Conker to the car was saying that an e-scooter had ridden over, so goes the chat around the campfire. There was like a fuse box for the lights under this one, hatch that they bumped over a bit too hard and the whole thing just went from there. So that's
a genuine lifestyle.
That's the leading theory. I haven't heard anything better.
My theory is Dolphins v Broncos, Demons v Lions, the whole city shut down.
Too much light.
Too much going on.
Well, there was one of the socials did ask, what were you doing during the explosion?
Well,
where were you?
I was sooking in the chat. No, I just a big shout out to Grant Thomas. I hope you're going well.
Grant, not a friend of the podcast.
Not a friend of the podcast.
Was on the list.
You've
been knocked back years now, mate. So
apparently, if he got some devastating news, he would be smiling and laughing. That would be the way he would attack it.
No. Well, he's a better man than you, obviously.
So I managed. We'll talk about my injury just quickly.
Can I just before we do? Not a single one of the social media entry. I had a lot about you. Like someone saw a Gawny 11 number plate on a car. They sent that in.
Yep.
Someone said that, they just wanted to know what you were doing during the explosion. That potentially could have been you.
Yep.
Someone actually wants you to write another book.
Okay, that's good.
God knows what reason. Nothing about the injuries.
Book number 2.
No one cares.
Well, I'll talk about the injury in the book.
So I felt like of course. I want to ask.
Well, they come straight to the source.
Well, here I am at the source. How's the injury?
To be fair, I got away with one there. The acronym ACL was thrown around a couple of times in the first quarter.
Austin City Limits.
Yeah, Austin City, what a festival. Been there twice, 2 ACL. I'm on my 5th ACL. That was thrown around by a few people when I was down in the rooms in the first quarter.
And that's the season done.
That's the season done. And potentially the age of 31, that's a tough.
Why weren't you smiling?
So that it took a while to get the general gist of what was wrong with my knee. We were down there for a while doing some fitness tests. And then sort of 5 minutes ago in the first quarter, they sort of said, there's a little bit of instability there. We can't tell you either way if you've done it or you haven't done it. So we're going to call it quits then. I put some ice on. I sat down, and that was the moment I managed to get on the broadcast.
Yeah.
Mishap from me, being able to go into the change rooms. I got told to get out of the hallway because the hallway was bad, so I went into the change rooms.
Yeah.
And there's cameras in there as well.
What they didn't know is that you're actually smiling the whole way through that testing, weren't you?
Yeah, I was smiling the whole time. As soon as I said the word ACL, I burst out in laughter.
Yeah. Huge toothy grin. And then just crazy how, and they started filming you. You looked, what's the sooking? You started sooking.
I did come out at quarter time. Not sure if you remember seeing me.
Grant didn't watch that far. He turned his TV off in disgust.
For the rest of the longest game in history, I was out on the bench. To be fair, I wanted that to be over pretty quickly, and it ended up adding another 50 minutes to my day.
Yep.
I've come back with really good news. At the airport, it was phenomenal. It was like I was dead. The two reporters were the most nicest two reporters that they've asked. With a big frown on their face. It was almost like he was. Jess reckoned she was watching at half time, and John Ralph did like a monologue. He was a marvelous man. Like that's how he started. Jess thought I was dead. I've got away with one. I haven't seen the doctors yet. I will, but
you've just had the call.
It's along the lines of the Jack Viney injury. Jack Viney got back in 3. To be fair, Jack Viney was the one that injured my knee. Now
I actually thought
he dived into my knee.
Yeah,
we'll talk about that later.
Well, that'll all get cut.
That'll be in book number 2.
Yeah, okay. The Viney Gawny.
The Viney Gawny paragraph. And I've got it. Yeah, I'm lucky. Hopefully, just a couple of weeks. Maybe it could be anywhere from 1 to 6. I doubt it's going to be 1, 2, or 3. It's probably going to be 4, but who knows?
So 4 to 6.
4 to 6.
Well, that's good.
Can I just quickly before we get Ferg in?
Sure.
I just want to. Have you seen your headshot?
Yeah, I have.
Do you look good?
Huh?
So this is my headshot.
Yeah.
That's normal. We'll put it up on the gram, the videographer or whatever. We'll work that out. That's my headshot.
Yeah, mine looks like I'm half.
That looks good. That looks okay. That's normal.
You're conventionally handsome.
Have a look at the one that AFL have used.
Oh my God, what? How's that so different?
That's the headshot they got given.
Oh God.
And that's what they've put up.
How so
for those that literally just listen to the audio version and don't have the social media account that Gus will post these photos, the AFL have been provided with a headshot and then added 50 years to my actual headshot.
I've actually had a few of my mates send in. Apparently, I look real ass in mine too. Sorry for swearing.
What was your initial one like? Good.
Probably average.
I've added 50 years.
No, don't worry.
That's post getting ACL news. That's pre getting ACL news.
You've been sooking too much. That is incredible though.
They've added 50 years for no reason.
I don't know why they've done that.
Anything else to ramble about?
Yeah, I have. John Wick came out. That's MA 15 plus. I don't know if we can talk about that. But
well, no one will.
Tom McDonald went and watched by himself.
Out of the listeners here, no one will be able to go watch it.
Well, no. Well, we can't even talk. No, I won't even say that. But it was out. Tom McDonald went by himself.
Yep.
So there's that.
Tom McDonald went to the movies by himself.
Morning of the game. And then...
game day in Brisbane. That's hilarious.
But the one that I actually did want to flesh out a little bit,
okay,
pun intended,
okay,
was there would have been a steady influx of He Who Must Not Be Named in the Fleshes for this year.
Wow.
And... just for short, because that's a mouthful, we can say Voldemort's in the flesh.
Yeah, that's 2 podcasts in a row we've mentioned He Who May Not Be Mentioned.
Exactly. So I'm just wondering, did the Voldemort's in the flesh, are we just killing that dead? Or do we...
I'd like to see a couple, but we just won't talk about it on air.
Okay. All right, so you want me to post them though?
No, send them through. We'll have a good laugh.
Okay.
And then we'll delete them.
Yeah, just know that you... There's been a couple of real good ones too. We're going to have a great laugh at that. But yeah, so just no, please send them in. Don't be upset if they don't make it through to the keeper because, he's dead, obviously dead.
If you want to stick around for a bit of Casey news, team selection news and all sorts, we don't have the news hound today. It's just me and you trying to deliver the news. That'll be post our interview with Ferg and a facilitator from Reach.
Feels like it's time for a break though.
It is. Let's do it. Now, Gus, we all know the team at Zurich Insurance are proud sponsors of the Gus and Gawny podcast.
They are huge supporters of the podcast. Our OG Platinum partner, I believe. It's something our senior head of sponsorships, Spargs, reminds me of regularly.
Yes, and they've also been on board as co-principal partner of the club since 2018.
Spargs also told me that they've been providing insurance for individuals and families, plus businesses large and small, for over 100 years.
To see how Zurich can support you, head to zurich.com.au or contact your financial advisor or broker.
I'll do it right now.
Welcome back. We would have just heard the sponsor shout out of Zurich, most likely.
We won't double up on that.
If you didn't, let's double up. Thanks, Zurich.
Yeah, Zurich, awesome. They've actually just donated $25,000 to the round 4 Reach.
Yes, which is your first question. We got Fergus Watts and Jana
Christodoulou.
G'day, guys. Run with Christodoulou?
I don't even want to say. I don't want to touch.
Give it a try.
Try. Christodoulou. Gawny really made a mouthful of it. You won't hear that, but we were recording. I'm pretty sure.
Yep.
We were. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks. Good to be here.
Yep. First question, and Angus needs to get this out.
Well, I think we, as you pointed out, we have been here for 20 minutes beforehand talking, and the first thing that we came up with when hearing it's now the round 4 Reach, was there a focus group that sat down at Reach and said we got to name this round, and you called it the Reach Around for the first one?
No, it was Reach Space Round. It just if you said it close together.
Who made the decision to change the name?
Yeah,
as the CEO, Ferg, was that the high level stuff?
These are the topics that make this the number 1 podcast in footy.
Yes.
So this is the top end stuff. The Reach Around, the Round for Reach. Just, anything that gets people talking is really what we're interested in. Youth mental health and all that is this is the focus, and this sort of highbrow stuff is perfect.
Yeah, exactly. Well, everyone's talking, mate. Don't worry about it.
We'll start with you, Ferg. Six AFL games?
Yeah.
Is that
6 of the best.
bang on the money?
Yeah.
I thought it was 2.
I was 2.
Do you guys need to have a chat?
I'm not your footy gal.
St Kilda and Adelaide
Yep.
started with Crows.
Yep.
Drafted from Wesley.
Yep.
Went back and played collegiate footy.
Yep.
Do you know Viv Mitchie?
I do.
That's good.
There you go.
There's a collegiate.
An old
background.
Wesley grammarian.
Yeah. Wesley Grammarian? Wesley
Wesley
Collegiate.
Collegian.
Yep. I didn't go to Wesley at the record show.
I coached Viv for a little bit. Went back and did some coaching at collegians.
Did you? Now Jared Rivers?
Yeah,
Web
with
coach.
Riv, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Still involved?
Me.
At Wesley, yeah.
I'm a sponsor of a club. We do the coterie, but I don't do the footy
He's the
stuff.
CEO of
I've got
Reach,
3
mate.
kids now, mate. I don't go anywhere.
CEO of the Reach Foundation. He's probably a little bit
And you were telling me this morning that there was an injury that potentially was the reason why St Kilda was just left at 1.
Yes, yeah. Potentially implies that I had some talent that I might have been able to go through. But I busted my leg up pretty bad. So when I was at the Crows, I ruptured my ankle my second year and then got traded back to the Saints, played round 1 against the Eagles, and then broke my leg in round 2, and that was basically it.
So when you broke your leg, were you smiling ear to ear, or were you sooking? Because we've got a little bit of an attitude problem here on the podcast. Gawny gets season-ending news. You had career-ending news, so I can only assume you were so much happier.
I had career-ending news and a lot of pain, so they give you the green whistle.
I didn't have the green whistle.
You needed the green whistle. The green whistle, nothing's bad when you got the green whistle in your mouth. You're good as gold.
Okay. Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah, it is. That's brilliant news.
That green whistle was the reason why I was a little
exactly.
bit upset.
Yeah, that's what you were missing.
Come on, Grant.
Not in enough pain.
I was just going to say, Melbourne and Reach have recommitted and I would say escalated in terms of what our relationship's going to look like. Obviously, we've had deep ties to the Reach Foundation for ages, but it's really exciting. Purdy spoke to the players about what that looks like and practically how we're going to go forward. From your perspective, talk about what the next couple of years and this new relationship with Melbourne, how's that work for you guys?
So, I mean, obviously, Reach and Melbourne have had a relationship since day one, with Jim Stone's founding the Reach Foundation. So this partnership has been one that has been hugely fruitful for the Reach Foundation, primarily because the connection with the footy club gives us pretty significant exposure. Now, what Purdy and I have been speaking about over the last couple of years and what we're enacting is being able to take some of the high-performance culture that footy clubs have and you guys have here, the work you do with Plunks, all of that sort of leadership component, and then being able to bring that into the Reach Foundation. Because the way we operate at Reach is we have facilitators like Jana that are effectively our talent. They're effectively like our players. So we recruit them, we train them, we develop them, and then they go into market and they perform. And so we're endeavouring to create the same sort of high-performance culture at Reach that you have at footy clubs, and that is a combination of the Melbourne partnership over and above game day activation like Round for Reach and other sort of promotional stuff we do through the year.
For a while there, it was simply the connection because Jim obviously is the founder, but now it's looking more into that, what football clubs, how they work, the structure around football clubs, connecting that with Reach.
Well, that's right. So Jim recruited me to Reach when I was 15. So that's 22, 23 years ago.
15 years ago.
Touch more. And so Jim recruited me. I was a participant, then I was a facilitator here at Reach, went out and ran the work, all that sort of stuff, then got drafted and blah, 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 went on, played footy and did some other stuff. And I've sat on the board for the last few years. And so I think my connection with footy, knowing the way a footy club works, I've got a business and we work a lot in the AFL as well. So knowing the way the commercial side of footy works, knowing the way the footy side of footy works, it just became very obvious to me that Reach and football clubs are very, very similar in the way they operate. We get our funding in very similar ways, so commercial partners, and we have donors, you have members, that sort of stuff. And then we have to breed best talent in markets to go out into schools and go and deliver this work and perform. And so we need to train them appropriately. We need to make sure their mental space is in a good position, because we deal with very emotive subjects and that sort of stuff. So so we operate in a very similar way. So trying to take the learnings from both is what we're endeavouring to do.
This is probably for both. Am I right in saying that a facilitator tends to be someone that's already come through the program initially?
Usually, yeah. There's the odd few that maybe we recruit a little later on, but for me personally, and I know a lot of other facilitators, we started when we were quite young as one of the participants, and then work our way up.
One of our things is we recruit them at 15. A bit like old school footy days back in the 80s, where you'd get in your catchment and they'd get you into the system at 15 and sort of pull you through. We're the only ones that train facilitators from a young age, and then they're in market. Jana's one of our older facilitators, 25. So we recruit at 15, we train them, we get them going, and then we go from there. Now, funny you say that, because we are actively in market now recruiting mature age. By mature age, I mean like 21, 22, right? Facilitators that we can bring in, because that training process is quite a long time.
So you're looking around in the VAFA, the VFL, trying to find a mature age.
Vanders,
group.
looking for a Vanders in the knee
We're
foot.
trying to find mature people, which are hard to find in the back.
Let's throw me off with Vanders. So talk to me. How you were recruited by Reach at what age?
Yes. I started when I was 15.
Yep.
And I'm originally from New South Wales, so I started in...
Sorry to hear.
That was quick from you. So started off there and worked my way up. I was like a young person that didn't really love what Reach did in the beginning. I found it quite cringy, to be honest with you.
Yep.
But yeah, met some pretty incredible facilitators that were obviously a bit older than me and just found a huge connection for it.
And how do you go from being a participant to an actual facilitator? Is there I guess for both of you as well, is there people that you're looking for, or the sort of participation, like if you're getting right into it, is there skills as well? I mean, how do you go through that process?
Good question. Like we want a mix of people. We don't want all the people that look or sound like me, because it'd be one entertaining but also boring place. We want diversity, and we want people who come from all different walks of life. So you've got, in our facilitator pool, you've got people that are quite loud and extroverted. You've got people who have maybe had some significant things in their life, all the way through to people who, can come from private schools or maybe, really different backgrounds. So it's very different walks of life we want.
Yeah, cool.
10 years involvement. That's a long time. 1,000 plus workshops is written down here.
Ferg's been saying best talent for the whole.
We're talking to Christian Petraka.
We've got the Christian Petraka of the
It's
facilitators.
amazing.
That's a good. Nice.
This is it.
That's the only AFL player I know. No, I'm joking.
That's one. That's a good one to know, because he does his
Right.
TikToks.
Yes, that's why I know him.
Yes.
Really? We need a TikTok.
I heard on your podcast you guys do need a TikTok.
You're a listener.
She listened to
Just for
episode
last
1.
week.
Just this
last
morning,
week.
'cause I knew it was coming.
Yeah, exactly. It feels like that's not it.
She asked me who this Goody guy was that we referenced. Goody is the coach.
Okay, great, got it.
He's the coach.
Yeah, he's a pretty big deal. How have you seen Reach change since you first arrived?
Besides the name.
Since
Yes.
you went
Significant.
since you went through the doors at Reach
Yeah.
to where we are now, which is before Ferg. Obviously, Ferg was 20 years ago, but
Yeah. So how Reach has changed. I want to say massively, but also not heaps of changes. I think in the way that we market our work now, it's a huge change. But I think getting out to more young people today is the thing that I see the most, and just having more of a grasp on the preventative work that we do, which I think is the most important part of mental health, is getting in there before things become really hard or tough for people.
Yeah. If I walked into Reach today and I didn't know a thing about what you guys do, how would you best sum it up?
It's best summed up by preparing young people for life. Right. So let's take your example on the weekend, right? So you hurt your knee, you have a moment where you think, maybe I'm out for 12 months, maybe I'm out for 6 weeks, who knows? That is an emotionally intense moment for a number of reasons, right? Now, as adults, you're a professional athlete, you deal with this stuff all the time, so you're fairly well equipped to deal with this, right? Other people lose their jobs, they make a mistake in their job, and they get on performance review, or they get sacked, or whatever it might be. Their wife leaves them, whatever it might be. As adults, all this stuff happens to us, right? To be able to deal with those things, you need to be mentally equipped and have the emotional muscle to be able to deal with that stuff, to be able to think about it, to be able to analyze it, and to be able to sit there in yourself and not lose this perception and this belief in who you are as a person because you got injured, lost your job, your missus left you, whatever it might be, right? The only way to prepare for that moment as an adult is to do it as a kid, because unless we are preparing young people by developing their emotional intelligence, by developing their understanding of who they are and developing their understanding of the world around them, they are less equipped to deal with these emotional moments that come up in their lives, right? That is what preventative mental health is. So our facilitators go in and we flex that emotional muscle. The only way you're prepared to deal with injuries or other life events or various other things, academically we all understand it. We'll teach kids academically so when they go into an academic environment, they're well equipped to do it. The only way to prepare for that emotional moment is to flex the emotional muscle and 1% of all funding and focus in mental health is in the preventative world. 1%. 99% is when you're already sick in some way.
So, I mean, I guess that's a good segue. The funding so obviously people listening, the round for Reach is designed to raise funds for you guys, go straight to you guys. So that, I guess if people are listening and want to donate, that's where their money will go. It's to the 1% that sounds like would be great bang for your buck if you're looking to donate anywhere.
Yeah, so we'll do about 50,000 young people this year, right? They are participants that come through our workshops, primarily in schools. And we go into schools and we also have a range of community workshops and things that we do. And we create these environments where young people can be themselves, where they can talk about things that are happening for them. So generally in all of our lives as adults, we can look back and remember as kids moments that shifted our personality in one way, shape or form, right? It might be tiny little innocuous things. I was sitting in a school workshop with a primary school the other week, and there's a young girl in there, year 5, so she's 10 years old roughly. And she said, I just can't find anything that I love about myself. And I speak to mum, and mum says, you just got to find something you do love about yourself. And she says, but I can't. And one of our facilitators said, well, what do you love to do? She said, well, I love to dance, but I don't dance anymore because one time when I was younger, I was dancing with a friend and I looked up and my brother was laughing at me with his friend and I don't dance anymore. Now, that tiny moment that the brother didn't even know happened probably, right? No one else knew what happened. In that fraction of a second, that girl automatically said, nah, I'm putting this layer around myself now that expressing myself through dance is not okay in my world. And so what that means in reality is that she stops doing something that gives her purpose. She stops doing something she loves. She stops doing something she's passionate about. And then she sits there as a 10-year-old in a workshop and says, I can't find anything I love about myself. Those tiny moments are the moments that shape us consistently in our lives. That, if you develop the emotional intelligence and develop your emotional muscle to understand who you are more, and you get an opportunity to speak about those things like this girl did, and you get an opportunity to do it in a group where you are affirmed in the group and you recognize that you're not alone in those feelings, those are the things that create the shift in young people's lives. And Jim always used to talk about this 2-degree shift. So a rocket ship on Earth launching up into space, you change the launch degree by 2 degrees. On Earth, no one notices. But by the time it gets into outer space, it's 1,000 miles on a different course. That's what we do. So, yeah, if anyone wants to donate to Reach, it's reach.org.au. All of your donations go into growth and future for Reach, right? So we can invest in more facilitators like Jana. We can develop them faster and more effectively. We can spend more money on their training program. We can spend more money on their well-being so they can walk into more classrooms more often and have a bigger impact.
So the work is similar to rocket science. There you go.
That's how clever.
That's why you need the best talent.
Right.
That's why Jana's here.
You'll be able to get it on our socials.
Yep, absolutely.
Angus is our social media coordinator.
Yes.
Yep.
So you got the gig.
Not TikTok.
Hasn't posted
TikTok.
now.
I haven't quite got to TikTok yet, so
You haven't even posted on Instagram now. It's
been a while.
For 6 months.
It's been a while.
And you're a social media coordinator.
bring it back.
Okay, sorry. I see a lot of that. I'm not sure what you were thinking when Fergus was speaking then, Angus, but a lot of that in football now today as well. We have 45 people that are sort of bred to be the same way. We have values, trademark that we all want to live under, and therefore sometimes you can think that's me. The thing that Jim did with me early, and we've all had and I'm sure you've had some sort of connection with Reach at some point in your life as well, Angus. But when I was 17, I just thought I had to be this person. And similar to this grade 5 girl that you're talking about, not as extreme, I was thinking I can't be seen doing that, because even though that makes me the person I am and that makes me have fun, that's not what a footballer does. And I had struggles with that. And I was very lucky. I had Jim as my facilitator, pretty much a one-on-one facilitator. He was at the club as the president, and I was this new up-and-coming player. So I had this one-on-one facilitator who knew that I wanted to be different but didn't know how to be different. And it was amazing that I didn't have a young person. Jim was probably 50 by then, but I had someone that looked after me in that space and allowed me to be different, and also had a similar career path. So he played as a ruckman in football, so he knew what it took to get there, and he knew that you could be different. Jim was incredibly different. Jim was an Irish ruckman who played 240 games straight. Like, who does that these days?
So this is one of the great. This is one of the topics I think is brilliant in footy, right? Because in football, there's always talk about we're pulling the personalities out of the game, and you don't see the personalities in the media or on the field or all those sort of things. But modern day football is very much about focusing on the strengths, right? And getting rid of the old school sprays and stuff like that. So you said that's not what a footballer does, and in your view back then. What do you think a footballer does now? What makes a good footballer?
Well, a good footballer, and I look at your namesake, I just said, Christian Petracca. I look at him, and he is purely himself. 10 years ago, I was doing a TikTok 10 years ago,
not even 10 years ago.
I wouldn't have been let into the club.
Yeah.
So, one, we've created a safe space for someone to be able to express themselves like that. And two, he feels like he's allowed to within the four walls of this football.
So that safe space thing is an enormous part of creating an environment where people can be themselves, And that's the beautiful thing. Like, I remember when I got drafted, and I'm sitting there as a first round draft pick in the the induction thing that the AFL do. And one of the old school players who I mentioned was speaking at it. And they said, what advice do you have for a young draftee? And he said, shut up, don't say a word for 5 years.
I reckon I had those exact words said to me at some point.
And it was like, all right, well, okay. So I go into that environment. I'm not allowed to be myself. My views are not valued. And that was the old school footy way, Modern day footy, I'm interested in your view, but it seems to be that sort of stuff is out of the window now. It's much more about creating an environment where you can truly be yourself to then go on and...
Correct. And you have to... The issue with football is every week there's adversity. And I'm actually, sorry, to be fair, that's life as well. But it's a little bit more on a bigger... Like, if we lose 1 week, that can all come crashing down. From leadership above, it was because you were doing this, or it was because you're doing that. So it's from the top, from Purdy, Goody, Richo, then myself and leadership group, to be able to stay as neutral as possible throughout the season. Because we just lost to Brisbane, a competitor, by 50 points. We ended up getting there by 11, but it was 50 points when the lights went out. And there's every right for us to have to shape up this week, but that's not going to make us perform against Sydney. What will make us perform against Sydney is continuing on what makes us happy as people.
The weird thing is, I don't even think it's that. You talk about that's what footy used to be like. I don't think you have to go too far back to get to that point. Like you said, 10 years. I don't even think it's that far. So I feel like I'm really proud of what Melbourne feels like we're a part of doing is changing pretty recently. You have to go back more than 2 or 3 years. I don't think when we had... Everyone speaks about that. We had this meeting as a playing group in at Settlers Run, which has been done to death in the media, but it feels like the shift that has happened for the better, I'm not even sure you'd find that in footy clubs across AFL. It feels like we're you talk about Track being the first sort of player to pioneer his stuff. Feels like, I don't know how many clubs you'd find this at even today. And that's not even going into the community or, other leagues or competitions. So
how does that go with, I'm keen to, you mentioned adversity before. I'm keen for Yaz to share her story because she's dealt with some real significant adversity at a young age. But before we ask Yarns, what, that thing I mentioned about, in the media, the personalities of footballers being dulled down, all that sort of stuff, that would be that would go against what we've just spoken about bringing personality to football. How do you deal with that from a public scenario here as a footy club to give all players a feeling that they are confident enough to be themselves publicly as well as internally?
It's an extremely good question and extremely relevant.
Everyone's different. I think it's the first place to start. So Gawny and I do a podcast, and half of it's complete dribble, and that's very much public.
Not this half.
This you've come in for the good half. You're talking about other stuff. You know what I mean about that. But that's available. That's we want something we want to do, and have got full access to that. Now there'd be other players if you said we want to show your personality to the media. Here's a podcast, jump in, then that's not for them. So I think understanding everyone's different to start with. And then, that's what I said before. We're so proud of, it feels like we've created, we're the part of what's been happening here, the change, so that if you want to do something, feels a bit, you just spoke about a safe space, feels like we've created that.
There is something lagging in it though, just a tiny bit, we're pretty much paid by the broadcaster in Channel 7 and all the broadcast rights. And they want more and more and more from players, which is fair. And we want to give more. But as soon as we give too much, we're then shut down. So it's that fine line. We'll either shut down if we say something personal that shouldn't be out there between the football club, like if I bring out game plan accidentally or talk about an injury that I shouldn't have, shut down within the four walls. But then if you're society point of view and talk about something that's maybe wrong from that point of view, or laugh about a loss or something like that from outside world, you shut down. So there is that little bit of lag. But I'm hoping more stuff like what me and Angus are doing here, and there's a whole lot of other people from different clubs that are doing some stuff that hopefully we get to a safe space where, we're all friends and we're all...
Well, that's one of the core points, isn't it? Because you laugh about a loss as an example, right? Because every year there seems to be something come up where a team's lost 10 on the trot, and then you see a player shaking the hand of the opposition player and he's laughing after the game. He doesn't care enough, It's that thing that I am comfortable with who I am, regardless of any of the other noise.
Yep.
That, if you can truly say that and truly believe that, and it's a very difficult thing to do, you are in a very strong mental position. You feel very good about yourself, you feel very confident in who you are, and you can deal with all that noise around you. And, because at the end of the day, all that stuff primarily is just noise, but it's having the confidence to go through it. And, ironically, the players who have done that over the journey, athletes who have done that over the journey consistently, are actually the ones that go and create, profiles for themselves and life outside footy and stuff like that. You mentioned adversity before.
Yeah, we've gone down a little rabbit hole with footy. Let's bring it back.
I'd love Jan's because Jan's story is one. Like, I was a private school educated kid from a good family, right? And I was a Reach participant and a Reach facilitator. Jan's couldn't be more opposite of that. So, do you want to share your story a little bit about how you, sort of your childhood and what got you here? And I think it provides some good context in understanding yourself.
We can cut anything as well.
Yeah,
by the way.
no.
So.
All good, comfy. Just ask me some questions.
We've said in the past to our listeners that we're a one take, no cut podcast. That's complete.
Yeah. Go.
It's a complete lie. So go nuts.
I've done it a bit, so it'll be okay. But for me, obviously I started Reach at 15, and it was at a time in my life where I was probably going down a really, really rough path, with getting in a lot of trouble and not knowing anything about who I was or feeling comfortable with the person that I was. And that stems back from, the childhood that I guess I had of growing up, come from a really big Greek Orthodox family, which, there's a lot of rules in there and a lot of things like that. But for me, my family didn't look like the average one. My dad owned like a bunch of nightclubs and things like that in King's Cross in Sydney. And so if you know much about that lifestyle, that's what he was involved in. And so for me as a young person, that was something that I'd be like, no one's going to find out about what my dad does, because there's a lot of shame there. But my mum, it was an incredible woman. She was a beautiful mum, but had suffered from a lot of mental health issues, which is probably why I'm really passionate about the preventative stuff today. But when I was 9, she passed away, and she died by suicide. And for me, that was just at 9 years old. On my 9th birthday, I was like, this was a big shock to the system and something I had no idea how to cope with or deal with. So growing up, there was a lot of just anger, really. And deep down, it was sadness and shame and all of those things. But lots of anger, that probably jealousy as well of why did it happen to me, or couldn't it happen to anyone else? So, for me, growing up as a teenager, life was pretty hard. Hiding all of that story and not telling anyone.
How did it? You said you were thought the facilitator, the reach stuff was a bit cheesy.
Yeah.
How did it actually, like, how was the work from the facilitator on the day? Not sure if you remember who it was, but how did you able to get to comfortable to speak about it?
Yeah. I was in a program called Grounded, which we still run today, and it's for young people who are disengaged from school and have a bit of a tough go at life. And I was in a room with like 50 other kids, and they all looked like me, like dressed like me. And I was like, at first, probably pretty intimidated. And it was the first time someone's ever asked me, like, what's life like for you? And I took the piss completely.
Yep.
And someone else actually started speaking, honestly. It was a fella, and he talked about losing someone as well, a parent. And I was like, okay, like straight away emotion hit me, and then the facilitators, and I still remember them today, still friends with them, but they started to ask me questions, and I was like, just never felt this okay talking. And I think it was just like, it would have been like the smallest moment for a facilitator, but for me it was huge. Just having another adult like care, or just care enough to ask the follow-up question for me.
Was it the first time you'd been to a workshop?
Yeah, it was the first time. And like...
What got you there?
Can I say the real?
Yeah.
My teachers knew a lot about Reach, but I had a lot of older friends that were at my school that were crew members, and it was appealing, so I was going to get a day off school, which I was like, yeah, okay. And then, it took me a packet of cigarettes, $50, and a taxi ride to the program.
Winnie loves cigarettes.
Yeah, Winnie Blues for sure, because couldn't afford them back then. But for me, it was like, it was a bribe to get me there, and I was like, oh, I'm just going to take the piss out of this day.
Yep.
And I am very thankful for the person that got me involved in that. Because, I don't know exactly where my life would be today, and I don't want to say, like, Reach has changed everything for me, but it's allowed me to meet people that really have impacted my life.
Like, where do you reckon, I mean, no one knows where they would have been, but where do you reckon it would have been if you finished with that smart-ass reply that you first did? Like, that comedy relief, you didn't go deep, and then you went home that night and thought about,
absolutely, yeah.
I could have had a chance to open up then.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing you'd have heaps of, I'm presuming there's a class clown in every workshop you do.
Absolutely. There's so many.
Yeah.
So many. I think my life, I would have been okay with an average life. I think I would have been like, I'll just work what for me is a normal job and wake up and not talk about how I'm actually feeling. I probably, like, a huge part of my, me growing up in Reach was coming out about my sexuality. Yep. And I can remember, like, telling myself before Reach, just going, I'm never going to talk about it. I'm going to marry a dude and it's all going to be fine. I don't know if you talk about many gay things on these podcasts, so there you go. But probably not many footy players want to talk about it.
We can do a segment weekly.
Yeah. But even just to have a joke about it, like, I feel completely comfortable with my sexuality today and who I am and what I bring in. And but I'm also able to be in a room with fellas that maybe don't talk about that stuff. So I think Reach has just allowed me to be very confident in the person I am and to have many dreams for my life.
And there'd be so many stories, I imagine, not identical, but similar, where people go to these workshops. And I remember, the first time we've done several, and the same sort of feelings that you were describing. I just remember going, like, the first thing we were asked to do was dance. Like, you'd pick a song, and then if your song came up, get in the middle and dance. And I was like, if I get picked, I'm either not going to do it or get up and take the piss.
Absolutely.
And then I feel like that's a universal feeling. But then once you can break through that, how powerful that is, if anyone's listening and isn't convinced of the reason why, that's pretty powerful.
You've got a 15-year-old Fergus now the CEO of the company.
Well, the thing is, like, the Jana's story, is not only incredibly inspiring, but it is a direct showcase of the power of the work, right? Now, my story is, like I said, totally different, but was impacted just as in a just as transformative a way, right? In that, Jim pulled me up on my chair, asked me, "Who are you?" I couldn't answer the question. I said, "Ferg." He said, I didn't ask your name. I said, "Who are you?"
He asked you about 15 times.
Yeah,
who are you?
Yeah, and I just couldn't get it right. And that was the first moment I really thought, well, actually, who am I? Well, is there a bigger world out here than going to footy training, getting on the train and going to school and putting on my uniform? Like, and that is that transformative experience, right? And Jana had a similar transformative experience. The grounded program we run is for more high risk kids, and like you want to come and sit in the back of one of them. You just and you want to sort of check yourself on judgment and things like that. When a whole bunch of kids walk in, that are disengaged from school, and you picture the kid you think is disengaged from school and what that stereotype is, and you got 80 of them in the room. Your own judgment clicks in, but then you actually ask them questions about what's actually going on, and then you walk in and you go, Jesus, no wonder they're acting out, no wonder their behaviour is poor in inverted commas, no wonder because they're just trying to find a way to express themselves in a life that's pretty hard. The power of the reach work is that both stories and everything in between are just as valued and has as big an impact walking into a private school as it does anywhere else, because every young person is going through something that is significant for them, regardless of whether significant for them is their brother laughing at them dancing or their mother completing suicide on their 9th birthday. That is their individual reality, and being able to talk about it, understand it, and do it in a group. So Jan spoke about going, I'm not alone. You're going through what I'm going through. Oh, geez, 10 hands have just gone up to the same question that I'm thinking of. That's the stuff that makes an impact.
That's as good as a way to finish as I've come across on this podcast. Melbourne, Sydney, Sunday, 3:20 at the G.
Yep.
I'm guessing there'll be some sort of donation QR code at the game.
Yeah, there'll be plenty of stuff at the game.
Yep.
But if you're listening to this and you want to support us, reach.org.au, get online. You can donate to Reach there.
Obviously, if this has brought up any emotions for someone listening, they can also
get in contact with us. Everything through reach.org.au.
Yep.
And if you're a parent out there or a young person, and you've started to think about some of these things, I'd implore you to ask the question. So a lot of parents, we get contacted by a lot of parents. I get asked a lot of questions about parenting. I'm loath to tell anyone how to parent because it's just too bloody hard.
Yep. Sit
around the dinner table and ask your kid 5 questions in a row. The art of facilitation that we do is a range of stuff, but it's primarily active listening and follow-up questions. So instead of saying, how was your day at school? What'd you do? Oh, I did this. Oh, that's good. And moving on. Listen to the answer and ask a follow-up question based on that answer.
Yep.
You do that 4 or 5 times, you'll start to get into the depth of what's really going on, and you can start having an honest conversation. And asking question without judgment, without your own opinion coming into it, just a pure question, that is a mini way to create that safe space that we've all spoken about, that young person can start to speak honestly about what's really going on for them.
You train a lot of facilitators. Do you feel like Angus and I were able to nail that 5-question active listening?
Nailed it. Elite podcasting.
Feels like that's another segment that we can run with Ferg's parenting hour, because Gawny was scribbling notes you can't see. But
come to my house and 3 kids under 4. There's nothing there.
Thank you. Hope it all goes extremely well. We raise a lot of money, but more importantly, we prevent the mental health stuff that's going on in this world.
Correct. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks very much.
We're back. We're just going to do that went well.
I thought that was really good.
I've done some interviews in my time. And
we've done some interviews, mate.
And we don't go too deep, but with Danielle Frawley, we went incredibly deep.
Yep.
And I feel like with Oscar Baker, we went incredibly deep. My mate Oscar.
Sauce.
And I feel like that was another one today as well. Tremendous organisation. I've been there for a few years now, and I've been sitting in workshops. I've sat in the back of a couple of workshops and seen some of the work they do, and it really is incredible. Makes you think as well.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about quickly some little bit of news. Obviously, we're playing Swans. It's at the G 3:20. It's a home game. Obviously, I don't think Sydney play many home games at the MCG.
Can't remember that ever happening.
Well, they did when I was South Melbourne, I dare say.
Weren't they at the Telstra Dome then?
I don't think the Telstra Dome was existing back then.
That was a joke, mate. Get with it.
Casey, they beat Western Bulldogs, Footscray, by 40-odd points.
Michael Hibberd touched it 36 times.
36 disposals for the Pig. James Jordan and Joel Smith, who were on the flight with us and had to fly back to Melbourne at about 10 p.m. Friday night. So James Jordan kicked 2 and had 20-odd.
28.
And Joel Smith, where's he? 8 marks to the prune, Joel Smith.
Yep.
Playing forward, for those that don't know, that Joel Smith's just swung himself in the forward line.
Collected a snag as well. Jeffo kicked 5 behinds. There you go.
Jeffo kicked 5 behinds.
Yeah. So that's a little tidbit. I don't know if anyone really needed that, but it was a good win.
Do you have an update on Stephen May for me, Angus?
Stephen May didn't play.
You've been speaking to the doctors?
Didn't play. Yeah, I've been speaking to the doctors. They said you're 4 to 6, and he, I think, should be right to play this week.
Update on Christian Salem?
His thyroids have returned to their proper
But
state.
unfortunately, has hurt his knee.
Has done a little knee thing.
Could be about a month. Little update. Cade Chandler's the easiest gig in footy. It just gets fed to you. Bailey Fritsch has the longest active streak of consecutive AFL games of at least 1 goal. He's now at 30 games
There you
with
go.
1 goal.
I think Taylor Walker's next with 28, isn't he?
Is that written down, or did you come up with
I
that?
tried to look.
And the Tom McDonald streak is broken. He had
longest
won
winning streak in the
15
league.
games in a row.
Winning.
And now, he was involved in the Brisbane loss. So Tom McDonald is done. Just remember, we're probably going to do, most likely, another segment about a young fella this week.
The hot seat.
The hot seat. We're thinking after 3 goals on the weekend, Sesto, but Sesto stole the show at the season launch for anyone who was there.
Yeah.
We're hoping we can get something similar.
Look, we wanted Jeffo, but he kicked 5 behind. So I think, unfortunately, Seston, if you're comparing the pair, 3-0, he gets the nod. Looking forward to that.
Thank you, Sporting Globe. Thank you, Zurich. No, thank you to Bailey Fritz Electrical.
No,
you
I
had
would
a
say
poor week.
I'd question mark. And if you have had your house done by Bailey Fritsch Electrical, maybe check the fuse box, because if it goes off, it might be because he doesn't actually know what a fuse box is.
And we'll see you in a fortnight.
Feels like a fortnight. Hooroo. All right, we've got Oliver Sesson. The people have spoken. They wanted a piece of you after your performance at the season launch. How are you feeling?
Feeling good. Feel blessed to be wanted upon.
So people loved your stuff at the season launch. Did you prepare anything for that, or was you just winged it, got up on stage and started spitting?
Nah, just fresh off the top of my head, to be honest. Didn't have really much in the bank. Sort of knew what kind of questions were going to get asked, but didn't really think about it too much. Just sort of said what came out of my mouth.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've got you here without any preparation. I think that's the way you do your best work. Speaking of your best work, 3 goals on the weekend. Are you disappointed that you're probably 21 short of what you probably expect to go out and kick?
Yeah, I was a bit disappointed, actually. I set myself to a high standard after that, and anything below that sort of bit of a failure in my eyes. Yeah.
I'm trying to keep a straight face. That's brilliant. So, obviously you've kicked 24. Well, expand on that for us. Walk us through your day. What did you have for breakfast? Because I feel like that's something I probably need to start throwing.
I don't remember what I had for breakfast, actually, but woke up at about 6 a.m, drove up to Tura, small country town, and kicked a few, and then just drove back home, and that was about it.
One of the day's work, mate. Well, find out what you had for feed, and Gus and Gawny, listeners everywhere, mate, they'll take off. So you've got a chance here to line yourself up with maybe like a Wheat Bix or something, or like a Nutrigrain. How many Wheaties do you do?
7.
That's the number. Watch that. Watch this space.